What's up, YouTube? It is your girl Latrina, and I am back again today with another tarot spread read. And starting off, we do get the Thought card coming out in that first row, and then we get the Seven of Cups in the reverse. So someone may be in there having some thoughts, doing some thinking, and maybe someone is even out of options, you know. And then we do get the Eight of Pentacles card coming out. And this is the vice versa deck. So whenever it comes out in the daytime, it's a brighter side to the card. But when it comes out in the dark, it lets me know that this card is depicting something that was worked upon. And it may have been dark. It looks like someone's out of options regarding something that they worked on in the dark. And I'm still learning these vice versa cards because that was the only way that I could really give a difference, because they're both the same, but one of them is in the day. It's still the Eight of Pentacles. And then the other side depicts a picture of the night, and it's still the Eight of Pentacles, which does represent, something being worked on. And it shows a man who is actually carving a pentacle. He's actually working on his pentacles in the dark. But someone's out of options. And it has this individual in despair at this time. And even in their thoughts. And this speaks of illusions. When it comes out in the upright. And in the reverse, I'm assuming that, it also speaks of options too. Because you can see all these choices in these cups that this man is presented with. But in the reverse, those options, someone has no options when that comes out in the reverse. And it's probably got them in despair. Them having no options because of something that they worked upon in the night. It's left them with no options. Yeah, because, this Eight of Pentacles is directly the card of work. Someone's in their thoughts, and even someone's in despair about, maybe some of these, about not having any more options, due to something that they did work upon at night, I'm assuming, because that vice versa card, it came out depicting darkness in the card. Because if it had a flipped and it was in the daytime, then it would have had a little different of a message. I'm still learning the vice versa meaning. You have to sometimes, let these information digest before you can actually, fully interpret it. And then we get the card of desire in that second row. And this is the very first time that I've ever got this card. It's different too. It depicts an image of a woman looking out of a window. And it has the message of desire on it. So that reminds me of that story, in the Bible, when David was supposed to have went to battle with his men. He didn't. He stayed home. And he actually caught a glimpse of a woman out looking out of his window. And it did spark his desire for her. Just from him seeing her out of his window, it sparked a desire. Someone's in desire. Or whatever maybe someone did desire, it now has them in the Five of Cups, which is despair, you know. Crying over spilt milk. Someone has been left crying. And then we get the Nine of Wands. And I'm going to see that's the dark. And this one is the light. This is the daytime. And usually the Nine of Wands, it depicts a individual that's surrounded, you know, by nine stabs, which means that he's protected, you know. Someone is protected in this coming out as protected in this 7th row. But we do get 2 depictions of somebody crying in this, you know, the 1st row, and even the crying over spilt milk in the 2nd row. Also, despair and crying. So that tells me that, you know, due to someone not having any options and no protection, or maybe they're crying and in despair because of your protection. Because those wands are actually surrounding an individual for, you know, protection. It does depict, the card has the meaning of protection. You know, that Nine of Wands does. And then we get the Thoughts card again coming out for the 2nd time. So someone's in some deep thought about whatever they worked upon at night. And it really has them in despair. And even in their double thought card. So thoughts is a very significant description in this read here. Someone's heavy, heavy, heavy in their head. And even depicting crying, you know, because this is the crying card. Crying about, you know, probably your protection. And something regarding someone's desire, you know, has come out in that 2nd row. And maybe someone has you in their thoughts and they desire you, you know. Crying and crying over someone's protection. Someone's really upset about, you know, it's brought someone to real sad tears. And I'm assuming that's something that they was actually, you know, stolen. Because in that Bible story, that man that was looking at that woman from his window while he was supposed to be in the battle fighting a war with his men, with the rest of his army. But he stayed behind, you know, for whatever reason. And he did catch a glimpse of a very beautiful woman looking outside of his window. And it did spark desire in his heart, you know, or his mind. And so what he did was he sent that woman's husband to battle, you know, on the very front row. He put her husband on the front row, the front line, I think they call it, when you're in war and you know, you have your battalions and they go back, or for whatever, you know, way that they assign these positions for these soldiers, you know. But he put her husband on the front line, knowing that he was not probably going to return from that battle, you know. So it was like a setup. You feel me? He set this man up so he could actually swoop in and take his wife. So that's a significant, because for that to come to my memory, in the beginning of the read. You know what I mean? And then for this desire card to be sitting here with this woman looking out the window, she's desiring something that she sees out of her window, which it really lines up, and it does have the same, interpretation of the story in the Bible that I was, taught as a young child, about that man. And I'm thinking it was David, because he's the leader, he's one of the real leaders in the Bible that did slay many thousands of men, him. And I'm assuming also his son Solomon was a king also, and a captain of an army, in control of an army. But he set that man up, and he had his his desire was for his wife that he seen when he looked out that window, when he was supposed to be in the war with his men. He was supposed to be fighting the war with his men, but instead he was looking out the window, and he was captivated by what he saw, and this is the Bible story. But back to the read now. It looks like someone was pretty much looking something up out of a window. They were desiring something that they seen looking up out of a window. And maybe they're regretful probably now, and they're in their thoughts, heavy in their thoughts, because both of these cards have the message of thought on it. Deep thought, and out of options. Someone is in deep thought and out of options based, because of something that they did work on. And it was at night. And this deep thought has brought them into despair, We get the despair card and the crying card. So these first two rows are describing someone's emotions, and someone's lack of options. Someone has no options. Because then we next get the card of a baby coming out in the reverse. I don't know what to ever say about a baby, but a baby is a baby. And then we get the strength card, my God, coming out in that third row. It looks like somebody maybe had a baby, or maybe they didn't have a baby. Maybe they were told they were having a baby. And then we get the 9 of Cups. And this is an overindulgence card all day long. And this is depicting the dark 9 of Cups. And this is, this is the dark 9 of Cups because this is actually a night card. And then here's the day card, the depiction of the day. 9 of overindulgence, right? Someone's overindulgence probably either did produce a baby, or even maybe they were told that there was a baby, involved. Because, overindulgence right here, and then this strength. Due to their overindulgence, maybe they did have to, man up and take care of a baby, or that's what they thought they had to do, but it doesn't look like there was a baby. Because why else would a baby come out in the reverse unless it was just, And then we get the occupation card coming out in that third row, and it's in the reverse. So maybe someone stole, okay. So this was something that was taken, something that was not worked upon, something that was taken. And even overindulged, And I'm so tempted to speak upon this fact that this strength card, it speaks of a Leo. You know, whenever you get through, it speaks of a Leo all day long. And then it seems like this Leo may have overindulged in something that they took. This overindulgence was directly tied to something that they took. So maybe this Leo was probably full looking out of her window, or whomever this Leo is was actually looking out their window, and they were desiring something that wasn't theirs. And so what they did was they did a King David move. And they set this person's spouse up to be put on the front line of battle. And you may be the person that was set up and put on the front line. And intentionally, so that you could actually be taken out of this world, knowing that you would die in that battle on the front line. And I don't really like to call out special signs whenever I'm reading, because I don't want to feel like I'm picking on, any one particular birth sign, because I would love for my message to be more collective reads instead of so personal. I really try to take them outside of myself as much as I can. But whatever reason, they always tie right back into the same storyline, which it makes me question whether I should even be reading or not, because I really could care less about this particular storyline, to be honest with you. But the thing is, my daughter gave me some encouragement, and she told me to keep reading. She told me just to switch up my card game a little bit, because I have a lot of cards that I can be reading with that will give me some more insight on, the collective, because I do not want to be reading about my own self. That's not any fun. You start reading thinking that you can help the world out, with your messages, but they stay so close to home. It really makes it hard for me to continue, because you just want to move past certain scenes, certain storylines, certain scripts, and certain characters. You just kind of want to move beyond that. You don't want to dwell there in that same storyline. There's got to be something way bigger and better in this world than this small little petty storyline that I keep on picking up on. And it makes you just want to buy some kind of weird cards that don't have nothing to do with everyday life. But then your chances of helping anyone or even speaking to anyone, it really does decrease significantly. But we do get the card of money coming out in that fourth row. So somebody, it looks like they had you put on the front line, And then we get another 9 of Wands. Speaking of protection, again, someone was protected from this setup. And this setup was directly related to some money that was trying to be, taken because they did not work upon something. Whenever you see that 8, well, it's not in the reverse, Wait, that is the Knight card. Yes, it is in the reverse. Someone's in despair about this money. I'm assuming that they put you on the front line to try to get a hold to it, to try to take it. Oh my gosh. And then another nine, a nine of sword this time. And then this just confirms this double thought that comes out in two separate cards in the first and second row. Because the nine of swords speak of someone having nightmares. And then on the flip side, this is the day side and this is the dark because it's in the night. So this is the flip side of the Nine of Wands. Someone's having nightmares about your protection and about this money, And this is the wounded warrior also, Someone has absolutely gone through a war, just like I said, they sent that man on that front row. The first line of defense, you know what I mean? Your foot soldiers, the ones you send in first. And they rarely live. You feel me? We got this message card coming out in the fourth row. It's the last card. And it looks like, there's this wounded warrior. My God, and all these nines. Because we got the triple nines out here. Which it probably ain't, that much of a big deal. Unless you look up the meaning of this triple nines. Because we get this 9 here of staves or nine of wands, and then we get the 9 of wands again. So you've been through a couple of battles, bro. You've been through many of battles. It's probably more than just a couple, and you survived. And this is someone's nightmare that you did survive these battles as a wounded warrior, that you showing up as a wounded warrior over this money. And there's a message coming through about this money. And also, whatever money and message that you may be getting, it has someone really trapped in their head and having nightmares. And even depicting wounded warriors out here. So this has been a battle. This has been a war and a battle for this money. And I'm assuming that someone actually did throw a baby in the mix. But I'm not seeing that it is a baby because it's in the reverse. So someone really didn't even have a baby. But they probably lied and said that they did just to continue this war, and this overindulgence, whatever they was indulged upon. And something that they did try to take that they did not work upon. And it was actually this money that they did try to take and that they did not put forth any effort in attaining this money. But someone is in their thoughts about you. And they may even be desiring you. Some man is in his thoughts. And he's even crying. Oh, Jesus Christ. And he's even feeling like a wounded warrior with his head taped up. And see, now, if you probably try to put somebody's spouse on the front line, I feel like the person that was put on the front line of this war, just intentionally to let me lose my life because someone was desiring my spouse. And this is prehistoric to me because I've been out of my relationship for 7 years. So to see this stuff coming up on this spread, it's so discouraging because I'm really so over that. I'm trying to really move past that scene scenario, and that even, I'm just like over that, bro. I'm just trying so hard to move on. And I thought that by doing these reads, that would give me something to do with my time instead of just being idle, with nothing but your thoughts. That it can be a nightmare, especially when these thoughts, are really, really traumatic thoughts. You know, so much pain has been experienced in my past. So you do want to escape those thoughts. You want to be free from that, from those nightmares, and from even the setup and put you on the front line so that someone could take your spouse. And then they throw the baby in the mix, like, oh, I'm having a baby, which it may or may not have been true, And I hope to God there's other people going through something like this, that I'm not the one that this story is talking about. But sadly, it's always like that. I'm on the front line, remember? I've been put in the front line of the battlefield, just intentionally trying to force me to lose my life. And then we get this hope card coming out in that last row. Oh, and it's pretty because we get the star. Also, let me cover her up because I know how people don't like to see that. They don't like you showing that lady when she's exposed like that. But we do get the star coming out, which, that speaks of wish fulfillment. And then we get this Ace of Sword in the reverse. So that speaks of a lie. And we get this mature man card coming out. Also in that very last row. So it looks like this mature man is hoping to receive a wish fulfillment. Oops, she's naked again. I'm like, oh, better cover that up. Through lies, I'm assuming he's trying to receive wish fulfillment, and he's hoping that he can get these lies across. this mature man, he's trying to figure out a way to get these lies across. Mm, mm, mm. For his wish fulfillment, I guess it would be, he's hoping